journalist Marika Sporos has dubbed Mikhaila Peterson the Queen of Carnivore, and I think that's a great title. I'm certain that she's spread more awareness of the potential therapeutic benefits of this diet than many of the rest of us combined. Her story is deeply inspiring, and today she will give us her thoughts on using the carnivore diet to treat autoimmune diseases.
Hi. Hi, everybody. It's very, very cool to be here. I've been looking forward to it for a while, and it's been super fun to meet people I've only seen on social media, which is strange. Today, I'm going to talk about specifically how to use the carnivore diet to treat people who are really, really ill. Is anybody here really, really ill or was really, really ill? Was, okay, that's cool. Well, I was really, really, really ill.
So how ill were you?
Okay. We're gonna get through that in like more detail than anybody wants to know. And there's some pretty intense pictures that I'll go through really quickly, so you don't have to look at them for too long. But it was bad. I was diagnosed. I wasn't diagnosed. I started showing symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis when I was 2. So it hit really quickly, and I was walking funny as soon as I started walking, basically. Okay, I'm gonna get started. That's an old picture of me, but I was already carnivore. That's last year. That's my daughter. So I'm Mikhaila Peterson, mother, blogger. I managed my dad, and I was formerly dying, but I'm not anymore. This works. So I went over this a bit, but I used to be really sick, and I want to talk to people who aren't just using the carnivore diet to get like hotter, but to get like healthier. So that's autoimmune, specifically autoimmune disorders and mood disorders, but also fatigue, skin problems, like a cracky jaw, like whatever. Okay, so age 2, I had symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, so I was just walking funny. My parents used to put me on their shoulders, and when they put me down, I cried, and it was like cried and sat down. So something was going on with my hips as early as age 2. When I was 7, I was diagnosed with arthritis. I had 35 joints that they could tell were actively inflamed. I had most of them that year injected with cortisone, so that was the first surgery, like they put kids under general to do things like cortisone shots. So that was age 7. Age 8, I was the first kid in Canada to be put on Enbrel. So I was taking methotrexate, naproxen, Enbrel, which is a biologic drug. Methotrexate's pretty intense too. That was age 8. Age 9, I started exhibiting more symptoms of depression and anxiety with OCD tendencies. That had started around grade 1, but by the time I was in grade 5, it was severe enough for me to be medicated. So I was put on an SSRI when I was 10. At 14, I started getting tired and itchy. So that happened just over a winter, and it was like mosquitoes everywhere itchy, but there was no sign of anything. And I was sleeping a lot, but I was also staying up late, and it was really hard to tell if it was me being lazy or if it was fatigue. And I battled with that and with my parents for the next 5 years with the fatigue, because it's hard to tell when people with like invisible problems are sick or whether or not they're just being lazy. And it's hard for them to tell too. And I can tell you, like, if you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, something's wrong. It's not you being lazy. Age 17, hip replacement. So I was told at 16 that I would need a hip replacement before the age of 30 because of the state my hip was in. And in the next 6 months, it got so much worse that I needed a hip replacement then. So that's my healing picture. It was intense. That's my hip replacement, which has actually done really well. The same year, I needed an ankle replacement. So after I got my hip done, my ankle cartilage just disappeared. So that's the left side, just like bone on bone. That was a terrible year. That's the ankle replacement. So that was 17. So things were not improving, even though I was on Enbrel, methotrexate at this point, Cipralex, and OxyContin for an entire year because of that pain. So I went to university at 19 because I needed to take an extra year of university because of all the school I missed, which made me really angry. But I went to university, and then things went downhill like really quickly because my diet went from like healthy whole grains but meat, and like we ate organic, and like my mom was trying to be healthy, to surviving off of noodles. And things got really bad in university. I gained weight. My mood was just awful. I went completely nuts. I kept trying to fix my antidepressants and try and like an SNRI, which went really badly. I went up on Wellbutrin high enough that it gave me a seizure. It was a rough year. So then I was like, okay, I can tolerate this. I'm slowly gaining weight, but like I can handle this. And then it started to hit my skin. So I'm gonna really go through some skin pictures so you can see what I was dealing with. But it started hitting my skin, and doctors were telling me, you know, you're doing it yourself, stop, because I kept going and saying, my skin is like dying, what's happening? And they're like, well, stop scratching. And I was like, you don't understand. So I'm in doctor's offices, I'm like crying, and they're like, well, you're crazy. I was like, okay, this isn't working out for me. So this is what started to happen. These are some not fun pictures. That's me looking puffy and really unimpressed with life. So when I was 22 and like my prefrontal cortex had mostly grown in, I started researching because I realized like how sick I actually was. When you're a kid, you kind of just like go along with things. You don't realize. I was like, oh, arthritis. That seems like something that's embarrassing, but whatever. But at 22, I was like, oh, this is actually killing me. So I started researching, and I started with the skin problem because I was like, okay, I'm gonna have depression for life. I'm gonna have arthritis for life, but I really don't want my skin to look like that. So it was like a vanity thing, and I was like, I can't handle all these symptoms plus the skin symptoms. So I went through like hundreds of papers on skin disorders, and eventually, after a really long time, I came across a celiac rash, which is a gluten-caused rash that causes itchy blistering. And I had never equated these skin problems with the itching I had started experiencing when I was 14. So I got that, and then I went like down the road into gluten and realized that that is really not good for your gut, just for everybody, but specifically for people with the celiac gene. And I had my genes done, and I have the celiac gene. So I cut out gluten. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. These are some of my medications. Some of them are doubled up, but it was like Adderall, what's on here? Adderall, Tylenol 3, Dapsone, that's an antibiotic, that was for the rash. Citalopram was for mood, valacyclovir, that's cold sores. I had cetirizine, just because I was allergic to everything. Enbrel was for arthritis. Advair is for asthma. Seasonal, that's birth control. I don't even know what Teva Ciprotronine is. Vyvanse was something to take along with the Adderall to keep me awake. Yeah, it was a lot. So, yeah, no, those are gone. I brought like a bag back to the pharmacy. Okay, so 2015, I realized gluten-free wasn't a fad. And then over that didn't really make much of a difference, honestly, getting rid of gluten. So in September, I went on an elimination diet that I kind of came up with myself, and it was just meat, root vegetables, and rice, because I thought those seem like things nobody's allergic to. I kind of just tried to cut out allergens. And I did it for a week and nothing changed, and I didn't realize this, but I was getting cravings at that point. And I made gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free banana almond flour muffins. I was like, that's healthy, and I just like ate, like 5 of them that night. And I woke up in the morning, my wrists were kind of sore, and I was like, maybe there's something to this. And then I had like 4 more muffins because like sore wrists, whatever, the muffins were good. And then the next day, I was in the grocery store shopping, and my knees locked up, and I spent the next 2.5 days in bed. And that never happened with my arthritis. Like, I didn't really have bad flare-ups in my knees. And so I thought, oh my God, like maybe there's something to this. So I went back to the original elimination diet, and I lost 3 pant sizes that month and 5 pounds. And I thought, well, that doesn't really make any sense. And it turned out the reason I could never get abs was because I was just permanently bloated, which I hadn't even known was a thing. So I went through this for a number of years. The low-carb diet, I cut out rice because I realized that bothered me, but I was on something that was like apples, greens, root vegetables, but not potatoes, meat, and I was doing really, really well on that. And I stopped all my medication, and I stopped my antidepressants in November, and people in Canada know it's really dark in November, and if you're depressed, that's not when you stop medication, but I could tell the depression was gone. Like when you take antidepressants, you still know it's there, and it lifted, and I was like, whoa, I gotta get my dad on this because he has the same depression I have, so he went on it. And then we tried to reintroduce foods and did it just terribly. Like I said earlier, it was like, I might as well go out with a bang if I can't eat, anything again, sugar, anything. So I'd eat a whole pile of it. And then I started experiencing these horrific reactions. And I went to doctors and I was saying, man, I think I'm allergic to soy. I think I'm allergic to almonds. Like, I think I'm allergic to sugar. And they're going, well, it's not showing up on the skin test. And I was like, it's not an IgE allergy. Like, it's something else. Something's happening. Like, do you look into, other types of antibodies or inflammatory reactions? No, those aren't real allergies. I was like, I reintroduced a whole bunch of food. My arthritis is back. My skin is breaking out. I have body odor. My gums are bleeding. My face is puffy. And I'm on the verge of hallucinating, and nothing is happening. Like, you can see something happening. So I went to an immunologist the last time, February 2016, and then I just stopped. So I gave up with the food introductions, but I stuck with this low-carb diet, and everything was going great, and then I got pregnant. And then all my symptoms came back, which was really scary and really frustrating, because when they leave and then they come back, it's just, and I'm sure a lot of people know about that, it is so scary. So they came back, and I didn't know what to do for about a year, and I came across, I knew meat didn't bother me, and at that point I was eating meat and lettuce and pepper and salt and apple cider vinegar and olive oil. So I was like, the lettuce is keeping my vitamins alive. Like, I need to keep this. And I came across Sean Baker on Joe Rogan, and he was saying, oh, I've been doing this for 2 years. And I was like, well, he's big and strong and looks healthy. Like, okay. So that night I cut everything out. And I had transition symptoms just from dropping lettuce, olive oil, and there was some turmeric there too. And I still went through transition symptoms. I'd been in ketosis for 3 years, so it had nothing to do with ketosis. It was something else. But about a week later, the itching stopped and the arthritis went away. And my digestion was just a disaster. And I was like, well, I guess it's a trade-off, right? I don't want the itching and the arthritis. My depression lifted in about 6 weeks. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't depressed, and that was good. My mom hopped on board really quickly in January. I was like, you want to give it a shot? She's like, sure. She's been vegetarian, she's done everything, so she's very open. She started that. And then I worked at my dad, because he worked because he was literally just eating meat and greens, and he was waking up with horrible anxiety, and he was saying, this isn't working. And I was like, just drop the greens, every day till April, and eventually he was home and I could corner him. And
Wait, that's not his version of that story.
yeah, his version is not true. So he dropped the greens, and he said 3 days later, the horrible doomy feeling in the morning went away. 3 days. So that's my mom, and this is her on the carnivore diet. She let me take this picture. She knows it's here. She's 57. Yeah, and that is everything she was suffering from. She cut out wheat a long time ago. We were all like, psh, Mom and her wheat allergy. But that's what she had, and she's good now. She's happy. She's still doing meat. It's been a year. This is Dad. He is 57, and he looks great. His has been a little bit more difficult to get under control with mood problems, but he had a whole bunch of problems. He was sleeping all the time too. He never naps now. He's just go, right? He's done what, like 180 tours this year? Like, he's got unlimited energy. So, what do you do if you've restricted your diet or you've tried carnivore diet and it still isn't working? Well, the popularized carnivore diet right now is animal products. And dairy was one of the biggest triggers for my autoimmune disorder and my mood disorder. So if you've tried carnivore and you haven't tried just eating beef, then that's the next step. And hopefully people can try carnivore and do eggs and do some dairy and still feel awesome, and that's great. But if you're in the category of people who are ridiculously sensitive for some reason, you have to really buckle down. So I only eat beef and lamb. I can do ruminant animals. I'm eating salt, and that's it. I don't really go out to eat. Like, I went out in Florida, and I was very annoying at the restaurant. Like, scrub the grill. I'm allergic to everything. What are the allergies? And I was just like, well, soy, dairy, gluten, sugar, sulfites, because I know that covers most things you like sprinkle on a steak. But the grill wasn't as clean as it should have been, and I had a, minor for me, but I still reacted to the grill. So I don't really eat out. So if you're in the category of people and you're still having autoimmune symptoms, you really got to buckle down. My depression's triggered pretty easily too, and so is my dad's. One of the things I wanted to talk to you, and I'm sure people are aware of that here, but you're taught by the medical community in particular, but by everyone really, to stop listening to your body. So if something's wrong, you go, hey, this feels funny, and they go, oh, everybody has that. You're like, okay, I'll put that in the section of ignore. And these symptoms, they grow and grow, and they're like, oh, these little tiny problems, but they're normal. Everyone has that. Everyone gets a slump at 3. It's the 3 p.m. slump. So listen to your body. That took me years to figure out, because I was going, I ate that, and I feel kind of heavy. But that's fine. And so you have to get past that, really start paying attention to your body. If you're sensitive, go 100%, go all the way, beef and salt, and at least give that a shot for a solid 6 weeks. Solid 6 weeks. It might take longer than that. For me, it was about 6 weeks, but it improved after 5 months, and then it improved again after 10 months. So it takes a while, which isn't surprising if you're trying to deal with an uncurable illness. And I suppose most people here are probably eating meat, but these are some of the things you're gonna have to deal with. It is hard, but it's not as hard as being sick for your entire life. Nothing is that hard. So it's worth a try. And then, these are just ways to succeed. Get the food you can't eat out of your house, because when the cravings hit, they hit hard, and you'll binge eat. So, and get it out of the house. Try and make sure, if you're with roommates, I don't know, man. When I first started cutting food out, I was on 40 milligrams of Adderall a day, which just destroys your appetite. So I was like, oh yeah, I can survive off of, tasteless mush, because everything is tasteless mush right now. So when I went low carb, it was easier to get off of sugar that way. I don't recommend taking Adderall in order to get over the sugar cravings, but they are hard, but they do last. They just drop off at some point. Yeah, so you can get your life back. I got my life back. I got a life that I didn't know existed. I had lost hope at 14. My arthritis had been put into a medical remission when I was in grade 6, and I thought I was one of the people that was going to grow out of it. And at 14, the doctor was like, oh, your elbow's inflamed. And it just wrecked me for about a month. And I decided, okay, I'm not going to have any hope anymore, because you can just be crushed that way. So yeah, this is, oh my God, I'm gonna pull a Jordan Peterson and cry. God, okay, it's over, it's gone, okay. Anyway, it's still a process. I'm still dealing with, I'm not dealing with anything, really, compared to what I was dealing with before, but I am trying to figure out how to make myself less sensitive, and my dad, because we're still very sensitive. So I do think there are underlying problems, but this has completely changed my life, and it's totally worth it, and I'm absolutely never going back. So yeah, that's it.